So who are we here with? Dude, my hair looks so bad, doesn't it? So who are we here with? Who are we here with?
I thought I was banned off this thing.
Who are we here with? So we're back with Baron Birdfeld. Who am I here with?
BLM.
So who are we here with today? You think you could do that? No.
Who are we here with today?
So Gage White, yo. Taste test. We're here in the gymnasium.
He did.
George Bush hates black people. If you could explain the Fresh World podcast in one word, what would it be?
Probably a struggle, because me myself, I was abused a lot, verbally and physically. Other than that, most podcasts were turning late just because of editing and just filming. We had to get it perfect, which ended up coming out perfect, or in our opinions, which they also ended up being a lot better than the Drusker podcast. A lot better.
Okay, so what did an average day of filming consist of?
Getting the shit beat out of me, because I would say words wrong, stutter, which there's nothing wrong with stuttering, but it's basically a whole day of a podcast.
Okay, what did you learn from being on the Fresh World?
The host of the Fresh World podcast is... I'm kidding, I love Xavier, but I learned how to edit, not stutter, and yeah, basically that's it.
What do you think you enjoyed most about the podcast?
Just making memories, That's, I'm gonna remember this forever. The Fresh Four podcast. Coming up with the name was like one of the greatest memories ever. Xavier, thanks to Fred, Xavier's dad, coming up with the Fresh Four podcast. Great guy, but yeah, it's gonna maintain space in my head. That doesn't make any sense.
So how did Eli being kicked out of the group, change the equilibrium of the podcast?
It bettered it, most definitely. Eli struggled a lot, didn't, keep his word, claimed he would take the computer home. He did bring it home, actually, but he sat there the entire time.
So how do you feel about the members of the Fresh World podcast?
Trevor, he was more in the middle, He got yelled at sometimes, but he never picked sides. That's what I liked about Trevor. Eli, horrible fucking member, never did anything. And then Xavier kept me in line, even though he beat the shit out of me. But he kept me in line for the most part, which I truly appreciate.
Okay, last and final question. Have you considered potentially getting the podcast back together again next year?
Yes, I have considered that, but it may or may not happen, just because I completely forgot about it when I was at Miss Campbell's house deciding my class. No offense to the Fresh Four podcast.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. What did you enjoy most about the Fresh World podcast?
Just chilling with you guys, hanging out.
Have you considered potentially getting the podcast back together again?
Yeah, I'll probably do this class again.
If you could explain the Fresh World podcast in one word, what would it be?
Explain?
Fun.
Fun.
Fun?
Yeah.
So how was your experience in the making the Fresh World?
I was a cameraman, so it was pretty fun watching you guys do this stuff.
Okay. How do you feel about the members in this podcast?
Logan, Logan, kind of annoying, but it's alright. Xavier, kind of mean. Every time I make a mistake, he yell at me, but it's alright.
Okay, so how did Eli leaving affect the group?
Didn't really.
Would you say it made it better or worse?
It stayed the same, to be honest.
Okay. So you were the cameraman, correct?
Yeah.
So what were some things that you saw between the host and the co-host?
Arguing a lot. I was entertained by it,
Do you think you've learned anything since being on the podcast?
Yeah, I know how to work a camera now.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate it, Trevor. Who are we here with?
Derek Terry. Mr. Terry. Is this on me?
Yeah. It doesn't look like it, but it is.
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask you a few questions about the French Roll Podcast.
Okay.
Okay. What did you think of the French Roll Podcast?
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
It's a loaded question, my friend. I thought it was a little chaotic. Yeah, I have many thoughts on it. Chaotic is one. The other is that it was a good opportunity specifically for you to understand like how this process works and what you need to do, and I feel like it gave you the confidence to do that. At the same time, because of the other members in the group, like every single member had something different that they, I'm not gonna say brought to the table because some of the people didn't bring anything, but that's kind of like one of the things. So like Eli, you guys kicked him out of the group. I mean, he was that bad. He's in your friend group and you literally kicked him out. So that's funny. The funniest part of that is that you then kicked someone out which made you 3 and still kept the name, the Fresh Four Podcast. So it's like, who's the 4th person? What's his face? What's his name?
Trevor.
So Trevor and Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Logan seemed to be at least trying. I think Trevor was trying at times too. Logan's more outgoing, so I feel like he probably got seen as being the one who was helping you more, whereas Trevor kind of liked to be behind the camera. I think that it was overall a successful venture, if nothing more than providing you an opportunity to understand that this is something that you like to do.
Okay. How'd they act in class?
How did all of you act in class?
Yeah, as a group.
Yeah, so as I was saying before, like, there would be times, Trevor is hard to get frustrated with because he's such a, like, sweet kid. So it's like, even when he's not doing anything, I just felt bad for, like, being like, hey, you need to do stuff, which really goes, I mean, like, that's a benefit for him because I don't know if he's actually like that, but he definitely seems like that. Logan's, he's like you, he's loud and obnoxious, but also funny, and I see myself in him and you, and like, especially when I was younger, like, I would have been the exact same way and doing the exact same thing. So even though it kind of like gets on my nerves sometimes, it's like, okay, I get it. With Eli would create an intense fire in my stomach and in my brain that made me want to drop kick him into a lake. And it's not like he was just lazy. He just literally would not try. Or if he was one of those people like, okay, I'm gonna act like I'm doing something, and as soon as you turn your back, I'm right back on my phone. Like, I wanted to break his phone so many times for that stupid football game or whatever that he'd play constantly, which he probably still does. So yeah, it was a dynamic set of people that I had a dynamic thoughts and feelings about.
Okay. How did the episodes change when Eli got kicked?
I definitely thought that they were better. It seemed, from a teaching standpoint, the content was, you guys had dead weight, essentially. You had dead weight, you had someone who was in your group that you knew you had to include, but that wouldn't do anything. And so that's a hard thing to do, especially if you're freshman boys, because like one person gets off task, and it's very easy for everyone to get off task. And so kicking him out 100% helped, because then at that point, that's about the time that you started really taking over the group and being like the full-on leader of the group. I think the whole time it was almost between you and Logan, like which one was going to step up to take the role. And then after that, it's like that's when you kind of started doing, and you also, it was about the time you found your like the way you wanted to film, like them following you around and you saying the same thing every episode, which you even put in your doc, I think, What do you say? What did you say?
What's it called? Hold on, let me think. I just said it.
Yeah.
Dude, I can't. It won't come. It's not coming.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like it's like your catchphrase.
Who are we here with?
Yeah, who are we here? That's right.
Okay.
Overall, good to kick Eli out. Not good for him because he literally at that point had to do things himself, and he just still didn't do anything.
Okay. Did this group fail, meet, or exceed your expectations?
That's a good question. I have really high expectations of literally everyone in my life, not just you students, but my daughters, my partner, my family. And I tend to admittedly have higher expectations of what people can meet, which means that everyone in my life is always disappointing me, which just sucks for both parties. I would say if I'm being realistic about how I viewed the group and how what I saw, I'm like, okay, there are 4 teenage freshman boys. The first semester of being their freshman year, getting in a group that is kind of a complicated subject. I mean, you can't just go do video and broadcasting on a whim. I would say that you all were meeting or slightly under my expectations when Eli was there, and then you were meeting or exceeding my expectations once he left. Except for I really like assignments to be turned in on time. And not assignments, but projects. Like and it's not because it's like, oh, it needs to be turned in at this time. It's like, I want to see it. I want to look at it. I want others to see it. I want you to feel proud of it. It's not just about like due dates. But yeah, so yes, to answer your question, it changed over time, but I felt like at the end of the road, I felt like you guys were meeting or exceeding my expectations.
Yeah, how did they improve throughout the semester?
Yeah, well, this is kind of going with the last one where at the beginning, you guys were in here, right? And it was very apparent that you were following like the evening news structure where you have a desk and you have your audience come in and your 2 guest structure or 2 hosts and 1 guest structure. So you guys are following that, which is great because I mean that's kind of where you want to start is from what you know. And so that was okay. It definitely was okay, especially like the creative, like Clucking Chicken and the commercials and stuff. But once you started branching out of here, I really think that's where it took off because, like I said, I think you found your voice and it was just fun to watch. Like I looked forward to watching those every week, you specifically, and like you talking to other students. And I was surprised at how receptive the student body was about answering your questions. Like they really did treat you as if you were a reporter. So I thought that was great.
How was their podcast different from the others?
Yeah, I mean, they were all really different. Like there was a group that did a very dark, 1 camera setup of kind of like, Edgar Allan Poe kind of mystery stuff where it was kind of boring. I thought that they were going to do well, but they didn't. I mean, they did fine. It just wasn't interesting. Then there's another group that actually did a pretty good job where they were mostly in my office, and I thought that was good. I always like being a part of them, so yeah, but I felt like your podcast and then the Josker podcast evolved the most. And I guess that's kind of what I want to see as a teacher is like, it's okay to start here, but then are you ending there or are you growing in some way? And is that growth positive? And I feel like your growth was positive. Josker podcast, I don't know if it actually was positive growth. I think that it was more chaotic growth. And I think that was their purpose, and I don't think I helped at all. I think I actually contributed to being chaotic. That's kind of like what I do. But yeah, I feel like you guys probably had the most amount of like positive, healthy growth.
Well, that's all the questions we have for you today. Thank you.
Okay, hold on.
Action!
Restart.
Action!
Hey, I need some effort today.
Enthusiasm.
Action!
You know what?
You know, I donate to charity, you know, Goodwill.
Yeah.
I'm a good person.
Okay, thank you.
Action!
No, you're not.
Y'all told me
God damn it. Restart. Tiny bitch. Hey.
Yo, you need to get a.
Hey.
Hey, this is just my thoughts. I think you need another part of your podcast.